welcome to the deep dive. Okay, I've got a question for you, and it's one that, well, it often separates those who feel like they're just adrift from those who are really steering their own ship. When life throws you that inevitable curveball, do you just react, on instinct? Or do you pause and respond strategically?
Hmm.
Because for most of us, I think, when the unexpected hits, it's just so easy to slip into autopilot.
Yeah.
And that reaction is often driven by this whole flurry of emotions, panic, frustration, maybe fear. It's that kind of primal urge to just do something, anything right now, just to get away from the discomfort.
And that right there, that's exactly where your greatest power actually lies. It's in that pause, that brief intentional pause.
Just a moment.
Yeah, just a tiny moment, maybe only 3 seconds long, but that's what we call the birthplace of power. It's where you literally step off that hamster wheel of just reacting. This is where, honestly, ordinary people become extraordinary. Think about it like this. It's where you start playing checkers, where every move is just a response to the last one.
Right, reactive.
And you start playing chess, where you're thinking several steps ahead, seeing the whole board. And look, this isn't some elite skill just for military generals or Fortune 500 CEOs.
Right.
This capacity for strategic thinking, that's your greatest superpower. And it's absolutely for you right here, right now.
That's a really powerful thought, that we all have this access. So, okay, our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We're going to be extracting the core insights from Outsmart Any Challenge, the strategic mindset. We're aiming to distill what strategic thinking really means, why it feels more crucial than ever in this, well, complex world we live in, and maybe most importantly, how you can actually train your own mind to cultivate this ability, how you can learn to outsmart pretty much any challenge that comes your way.
Yeah.
Let's dig in.
Let's do it.
The core of strategic thinking, how to think before you react.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. The absolute fundamental difference between just, reacting to a problem versus actually strategizing your way through it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've been guilty of this.
Oh, sure. We all have.
When a problem hits, my first impulse is often just urgency. Grab whatever bucket is closest to put out the immediate fire, And it's usually driven by emotion.
That's the default setting for most people, isn't it? They respond with this kind of frantic activity, panic, frustration, fear. Those emotions take the wheel.
Yeah.
And there's no real clarity there, just this desperate scramble. But strategic thinkers, they operate on a completely different level. When they face a problem, their instinct isn't to rush, it's to pause.
Pause for it.
Pause, observe, then plan. Instead of getting fixated on the immediate crisis, they're already thinking like, okay, 5 steps from now.
Yeah.
They're asking the bigger questions. What's the long game here? How does this choice, this one little choice, fit into my bigger picture? What's the ripple effect of this decision going to be, not just right now, but down the line?
That explains so much, like why some people seem to navigate total chaos with this uncanny calm,
Exactly.
while others are just constantly putting out fires, feeling overwhelmed.
Right. The calm ones are pivoting under pressure, finding breakthroughs. The others are just stuck in that reactive loop, getting burned out.
That distinction really hits home, and I think it's super crucial we clarify what strategic thinking really means, because there are just so many misconceptions floating around, aren't there?
Oh, definitely.
People think it's about being manipulative or cold.
Right. Or having these rigid, inflexible plans. Or that it's about constantly plotting against other people.
Yeah, or like you said, it's some elite skill only for the war room or the boardroom.
None of that is true. Let's define it positively. Strategic thinking is fundamentally a way of approaching any problem or even an opportunity with clarity, with foresight, and with intelligence.
Okay, clarity, foresight, intelligence.
It's about being intentional, thinking before you act. It's about consciously choosing your battles, knowing which hills are worth dying on, so to speak. And it's about anticipating consequences long before they actually show up.
And this applies everywhere, right? Not just big business stuff.
Everywhere. How you respond to your partner, navigating a tricky career change, handling those difficult conversations we all dread.
Even parenting.
Absolutely. Parenting dilemmas, business challenges, financial uncertainty. Think of it like your own internal GPS.
Ah, I like that.
It helps you map out where you want to go, figure out exactly where you are right now, scan all the possible routes, see the roadblocks ahead, and then move forward with a sense of calm confidence.
Okay, when you put it like that, it becomes crystal clear why strategic thinking matters more than ever today. I mean, we live in this age of just constant information overload, endless distraction.
Right. Everything feels like it's speeding up faster and faster.
It really does.
And that's precisely why strategic thinking becomes your anchor in the storm. It teaches you to consciously slow down your mind, even when everything around you is accelerating like crazy.
Like a skilled sailor.
Exactly like a skilled sailor navigating a storm. The waves are crashing, the wind's howling, but the sailor stays calm. They read the currents, they adjust the sails, they maintain their course. That's what strategic thinking lets you do. It allows you to consistently make better decisions, often faster actually, because you're clearer. It significantly reduces stress and that knee-jerk emotional reactivity.
That alone sounds amazing.
It brings incredible clarity to your goals, helps you ruthlessly prioritize what actually matters, and it just gives you this profound edge in work, in relationships, just in daily life. And ultimately, all that clarity and control, it builds this unshakable confidence.
Let's make this really concrete. Can you walk us through an example? Like, imagine two people, they unexpectedly lose their jobs, same day, same situation. What does a reactive response look like versus a strategic one?
Great example. Okay, person A, they panic immediately. Driven by that raw fear of uncertainty, they just blast out hundreds of resumes indiscriminately.
Spray and pray.
Exactly. They feel this desperate, urgent need to take the very first offer that comes along. Doesn't matter if it's a good fit or not.
And the result?
A year later, they're feeling stuck. Probably underpaid, definitely burned out.
Right.
Why? Because they just reacted.
Okay, now person B, same situation, lost job.
Person B feels the shock too, of course. But then they intentionally step back. They take a breath. They assess their finances realistically. They spend time thinking about their long-term career goals, what they really want.
So they pause.
They pause. They reach out to mentors, tap into their network thoughtfully. Then they meticulously research and apply only to roles that are truly aligned with their values, their skills, or long-term vision.
And the outcome for person B?
Within a few months, they land a role that's actually better. Better pay? Maybe. But more importantly, it fuels their passion. It positions them for real growth.
Wow. Same event, same starting point.
But two wildly different outcomes. And the only difference, one person reacted emotionally, the other one strategized intentionally.
That is incredibly eye-opening. And it brings us right to that core truth you mentioned from the book's first chapter. Your greatest power isn't necessarily your knowledge or your talent. It's your ability to choose how you think.
It absolutely is. It's about owning your response instead of letting external pressures or your own internal emotions dictate your actions.
So like a reactive mind might just blurt out.
I'm mad, so I'm going to say something right now, venting.
Right. But the strategic mind.
The strategic mind pauses. It thinks, okay, I feel angry, I'll acknowledge that, but I'll cool off first. Then I'll figure out how to address this situation in a way that actually solves the problem, not just makes me feel better for 5 seconds.
Big difference.
Huge. When things go wrong, reactive minds panic. Strategic minds step back, they reassess, they look for options, they see possibilities. Reactive minds want quick fixes, band-aids. Strategic minds are focused on long-term, sustainable results.
Why are most people reactive then? Is it just easier?
It is easier in the moment, yeah.
Yeah.
It feels natural that fight or flight response is hardwired.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, society often celebrates speed over direction, doesn't it?
Move fast and break things.
Exactly. Don't think, just do. But the truth is, you probably don't need more speed. You need more direction.
Ah.
And that clarity of direction, that's what strategic thinking gives you. It teaches you to pause, to reflect, to think before you act, to plan before you speak, to really see the potential consequences before they happen. That simple, deliberate pause, that's where your power truly lives.
Okay, that power in the pause. It leads us right into this idea of replacing those immediate emotional reactions with calm analysis. But a lot of people assume that means suppressing emotions, right? Like emotions are the enemy.
Not at all. That's a huge misconception. Emotions are not the enemy. Think of them as valuable signals.
Signals, like dashboard lights.
Exactly like dashboard lights. They give you crucial information about how you're feeling, what's going on internally. But here's the distinction. While they are excellent signals, they are often not the best decision makers.
Okay, so listen to the signal, but don't let it drive the car.
Perfect analogy. Imagine you're driving, someone cuts you off aggressively, your heart races, your immediate reaction might be anger, wanting to honk or yell.
Yep, been there.
Right. But if you can pause even for just 1 second and think strategically, you realize, okay, that was annoying, but this fleeting transgression isn't worth my energy, my emotional bandwidth, or potentially escalating things.
Makes sense.
And the same logic applies to much bigger moments. An argument with a loved one, a major setback at work, a personal crisis. Your first emotional reaction might be intense fear, anger, hurt. But if you've trained your mind, you can acknowledge those feelings. Wow, I feel really angry right now, without immediately acting on them.
So how do you do that in the heat of the moment? Is there a tool?
There is a profoundly practical one, the 3-second rule.
Okay, the 3-second rule.
Before you respond to anything significant, an email, a comment, a situation, just pause. Count to 3. And during that tiny pause, ask yourself these 3 quick questions. 1, what outcome do I genuinely want here? 2, is this immediate reaction I'm about to have helping or hurting that outcome? And 3, what would the strategic, calm version of me do next?
Wow, just 3 seconds.
Those 3 seconds can literally save relationships, preserve your energy, avoid massive mistakes, and fundamentally change the course of a situation. It's about managing emotions with wisdom.
I like that phrase, manage emotions with wisdom.
Think of your emotions like the weather. You can't control the storm, right? You can't stop it from raining, but you can choose how you dress for it, how you move through it, whether you run around blindly getting soaked or you walk with intention, maybe with an umbrella. Calm analysis is like stepping outside that emotional storm for a moment and asking, with a bit of detachment, okay, what's really going on here? What are my genuine options? That shift turns the chaos into clarity.
That shift from raw emotion to calm evaluation, it sounds like it requires a fair bit of mental discipline. And let's be real, discipline isn't always the fun part. People might try to avoid it.
You're absolutely right. This is often the part people shy away from because discipline can feel like restraint, like limitation.
Yeah, exactly.
But strategic thinking isn't just about handling those single high-pressure moments. It's about how you consistently train your mind over time. Mental discipline, in this context, means actively practicing delaying gratification. It means resisting those impulsive urges that feel good now but hurt you later. And crucially, it means thinking far beyond this hour, this week.
Looking further ahead.
Much further. It means regularly asking yourself questions like, where do I genuinely want to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years? And then, what specific actions, if I take them today, would the future version of me thank me for?
That's a powerful framing.
It is, because most people make decisions based purely on how they feel right now. Strategic thinkers make decisions based on where they want to be later. And yeah, that often requires saying no to immediate pleasure or comfort, but the long-term payoff is immense every single time.
Is there another tool for this, like the 3-second rule?
Yes. Another incredibly powerful tool is the future you test.
Okay, the future you test. Tell me more.
Before making any significant decision, a career move, a major purchase, even how you respond in a conflict, vividly imagine your future self. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years down the road. Picture that future you watching you make this choice right now.
Okay, got the visual.
Now ask, would that future you applaud this decision, knowing the long-term benefits it brings? Or would they cringe, knowing the negative consequences you're setting in motion?
Oof, that hits differently.
Doesn't it? This simple habit trains your mind to habitually zoom out, to gain that essential perspective. When you consistently zoom out, you stop sweating the small stuff so much. You stop chasing those fleeting wins that actually sabotage your bigger long-term goals.
Can you give a quick example of the future you test in action? Maybe that job offer scenario again.
Sure. Let's go back to that job offer. It pays incredibly well. That's the immediate attractive benefit, shining object.
Right.
But you dig deeper and find out the hours are brutal, the culture is toxic, the commute is soul-crushing. A purely reactive mind, driven by the immediate desire for more money, might just impulsively say yes.
Feels good right now.
Exactly. But a strategic mind pauses.
Yeah.
It engages the future you test. It asks, okay, yes, the money is good today, but what will accepting this job cost me in the long term? My health, my peace of mind, time with my family, my ability to pursue other passions.
That's a heavy calculation.
It is. Will my future self, 5 years from now, look back and regret trading these invaluable things for a higher paycheck today? That crucial pause, fueled by this simple test, could lead you to negotiate for better terms, maybe different responsibilities, or it might encourage you to explore other options that are better aligned with your overall well-being and long-term happiness. Or maybe you take it, but you immediately start preparing a strategic transition plan to minimize the damage and move on quickly. It gives you strategic power over the immediate impulse.
Okay, so it's crystal clear this isn't some innate talent people are born with. Strategic thinking is a skill you can actually cultivate. So how do we do that? How can we actively train our minds to think strategically every single day?
It is 100% learnable. Like any skill, it just demands consistent practice, like building muscle at the gym.
Okay, so what are the exercises?
All right, first exercise. Ask better questions. Every single time you face a challenge, big or small, instead of just reacting emotionally, force yourself to pause and ask clarifying questions. What's the real issue hiding beneath the surface here? What would success actually look like in this situation? And most importantly, what's the smartest next step, not just the fastest or easiest one? Strategic thinkers are obsessed with getting clear.
Ask better questions. Got it. What's next?
Second, journal your decisions. Seriously, to take just 5 minutes at the end of each day. Reflect. Where did I act strategically today? Where did I just react emotionally? What triggered the reaction? What will I consciously do differently tomorrow? This builds critical self-awareness.
Okay, journaling. Number 3.
Third, play mental chess. When you're in a tough spot, don't just focus on your immediate next move. Force yourself to think 2, 3, even 4 moves ahead. Ask yourself constantly, okay, if I do this, what is likely to happen next? And after that? And how might the other players respond? Life, like chess, rewards anticipation.
Mental chess. Love it. Anything else?
Yes. Fourth, and this is big, surround yourself with strategists. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. Actively seek out people, friends, mentors, colleagues who think long-term, who make deliberate choices, who value growth over fleeting trends. Hang out with them. Watch them. Ask them questions. Their strategic habits will rub off on you.
That makes sense. You become who you hang out with.
It's absolutely true. These practices, done consistently, start to rewire your brain.
It really sounds like more than just learning a skill. It sounds like a fundamental identity shift. You're moving from being the person who panics and overreacts to being the person who pauses, evaluates, and plays the long game.
It absolutely is an identity shift. You were never born to live on autopilot, just reacting to whatever life throws at you. You were built to lead your own life through intelligent, thoughtful decisions that shape your reality.
Yeah.
Every single challenge becomes exponentially more manageable, less scary, the moment you consciously switch from that reactive mode to a strategic one. It's not just a skill you deploy sometimes. It fundamentally changes who you are.
So you stop identifying as the person who spirals.
Exactly. You stop being the person who spirals into panic or blurts out the first angry thought. You become the person who pauses, the person who evaluates options calmly, the person who consistently plays the long game with clarity and purpose.
So the advice is to start claiming that identity now.
Start claiming that identity today. Practice the pause. Ask those smarter questions. Choose your next move with intention, even the small ones. Your mind is, without a doubt, your most powerful weapon. Master it, train it, use it strategically, and honestly, there is no challenge you cannot eventually outsmart.
Strategic Foundation 1 clarity is power, defining your end game.
Okay, so if that strategic mindset, the pause, the analysis is the bedrock, the foundation, then the very first pillar built upon it has got to be clarity.
And it starts with what sounds like a deceptively simple question, but man, it's incredibly revealing. What do you really want?
And boom, right there, that's where most people get stuck immediately. If you ask them, their answers are typically pretty vague, aren't they? Yeah, like, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy, or just, I want more money.
Exactly. Those are wishes, they're desires, but they're not a strategy. Strategic thinking must begin with absolute, undeniable clarity. If you don't know exactly what you're aiming for with specifics, you simply cannot build an effective plan to get there.
It's like that driving analogy you used earlier.
Right. Getting in a car with no destination plugged into the GPS, you'll burn a lot of gas, maybe drive around in circles, feel busy, but you'll end up lost, or certainly nowhere near where you truly want it to be.
And this highlights that hidden danger of being busy without real clarity.
Oh, it's so dangerous. Because without clarity, you say yes to every shiny object, every distraction that comes along. You waste precious time and energy on goals that aren't even yours. And worse, you start confusing mere activity, just being busy, with actual progress towards something meaningful.
Okay, so step 1 then is digging deeper than those surface-level answers to understand your true goals, what you actually want.
Exactly. This is about moving beyond the shoulds and the expectations others might have for you. What do you genuinely, authentically want? You have to ask yourself some probing questions like, What does success look like in my own eyes, regardless of what anyone else thinks? What kind of lifestyle am I actually aiming for? What does my ideal day look like? What specific impact do I want to have on the world or even just my community? What do I want to be known for when people talk about me? And maybe the big one. What will I deeply regret not doing or becoming in 10 years if I stay on my current path?
Those are much deeper questions than just more money.
Way deeper. You're not just chasing a job title or a bank balance. You're chasing a feeling, a way of life, maybe even a legacy. And the key here is specificity. Specificity fuels strategy.
Say more about that.
Instead of that vague, I want to be successful, strategic clarity sounds like. I want to be completely debt-free and have $100,000 invested for my future by the time I turn 40. See the difference?
Huge difference. That's tangible, measurable.
Exactly. That's real clarity. And that kind of clarity immediately starts suggesting real, measurable actions you need to take.
Okay, so once that crystal clear goal is established, you mentioned strategic thinkers don't just dream forward. They actually plan backward. Talk about this idea of reverse engineering success.
Right. This is a game changer. Once your end game is absolutely clear and specific, you literally reverse engineer the path to get there. You start at the finish line with the desired result firmly in mind, and you ask step by step backward, what would have to have happened right before this for this outcome to be true?
Okay, walk me through an example, like becoming a published author.
Perfect. So the end result is you're holding your published book in your hands. Fantastic feeling. What had to happen right before that?
You get a publishing deal.
Exactly. And what had to happen just before you got the deal?
You had to finish writing the manuscript.
Right. And before you finished the manuscript.
You had to write all the chapters.
And before you could write the chapters.
You had to consistently make time to write each week, maybe outline it first.
Bingo. Suddenly, this huge, potentially overwhelming goal of become a published author transforms into a series of clear, manageable steps. Outline. Write 500 words daily, finish chapter 1 by Friday, etc. Most people fail not because they're lazy or incapable, but because they genuinely don't know the concrete steps required. Strategic thinkers meticulously map those steps out in reverse.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so you have the clear goal, you've reverse engineered the steps. Now that clarity needs to translate into actual action, right? This leads to setting outcome-driven priorities.
Absolutely critical. Clarity without action is just, well, it's just intellectual entertainment. It feels good, but achieves nothing. Strategic thinkers don't just ask themselves, what should I do today? They ask a much sharper question. What matters most right now based specifically on where I want to go?
Okay, outcome-driven.
Outcome-driven priorities. Because here's the truth. Not all tasks are created equal. Many things feel urgent, they scream for your attention, but they don't actually move the needle on your long-term goals. Strategic thinkers learn to prioritize based on impact, not impulse.
Can you give an example? Like launching a side business.
Great one. You want to launch a side business. You could spend hours scrolling through Pinterest for branding ideas or tweaking your logo endlessly. That feels productive, right?
Yeah, it feels like work.
But does it actually move you closer to getting your first paying client? Probably not. The strategic priority might be actually building the first version of your product or service, or maybe reaching out directly to 5 potential clients today. Which one has a higher impact on your ultimate outcome?
Clearly the second one.
Right. So every day, every week, you need to filter your tasks through this lens. Is this task directly aligned with my defined end game? Will it genuinely get me closer, or is it just keeping me busy?
Is there a tool for this filtering process?
Yes, a simple but powerful one, the Power Priority Filter. First, write down your top 3 overarching strategic goals, the big things you're aiming for, based on your clarity work. Then look at your weekly or daily to-do list. For every single item on that list, ask yourself honestly, does this task directly support one of my top 3 goals?
And if the answer is no?
If it's a clear no, then you have 3 choices. Eliminate it altogether. Delegate it to someone else if possible. Or consciously delay it until it becomes strategically relevant or until your primary goals are achieved. This one habit can literally save you hundreds of wasted hours over a year.
Wow, that requires saying no a lot, probably.
It absolutely empowers you with the strategic no. And learning to say no to good things, things that seem appealing but aren't aligned, is precisely how you create the space to say yes to the truly great ones, the ones that actually matter for your end game.
And quickly, there was a bonus tip in the book. The one-sentence strategy. How does that work?
Yes, this is a fantastic exercise for forcing ultimate clarity. Can you define your entire current strategy, your main focus, in a single, concise, compelling sentence?
Like what?
For example, I am currently building a successful freelance writing business to fully replace my 9-to-5 income within the next 12 months. Or, my primary focus right now is optimizing my health and building functional strength so I can enjoy 20 more high-quality active years with my family.
And if you can't state it that clearly.
If you can't boil it down to one clear sentence, chances are you're not truly clear yet. You're still too vague. So the exercises: write it down, refine it until it's sharp, then read it every single day. Let that one sentence guide every choice, every priority you set. Remember, mere movement isn't progress. Clarity is what transforms that motion into truly unstoppable momentum. You're not here just to stay busy. You're here to build something that matters, to live on purpose, not just drift on autopilot. Strategic thinking isn't about achieving perfection. It's about being profoundly precise in your aims and actions.
Strategic foundation 2: information is ammunition. Learn before you move.
Okay, so if clarity is that first crucial foundation, setting the direction, then information seems equally vital. You use that really powerful analogy of a battlefield.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't just charge forward completely blind, would you?
Absolutely not. You wouldn't charge without seeing the terrain, without knowing where the enemy is, or even what weapons you have available. It would be suicide.
Right.
And yet, that's honestly how many people approach major decisions in their lives. They act without sufficient insight. They make big moves before they truly learn the landscape.
Ouch. True.
But for anyone aspiring to think strategically, there's a golden rule, and it's this: information is ammunition. Learn before you move. If clarity provides the power and direction, then information provides the precision.
Power and precision. Okay.
Information empowers you to see the situation clearly, to aim accurately, and then to execute your plan with confidence. Now, the goal isn't and should never be to know everything. That's impossible and leads straight to paralysis.
Right. Analysis paralysis.
Exactly. The goal is to know enough of the right things to make a smart move. So the crucial mindset shift here is stop guessing, stop hoping, and start discovering. Make research gathering relevant information your essential launchpad for any informed action.
Okay, but how do we gather information that's actually relevant and timely, especially now with just this fire hose of data coming at us constantly? How do we avoid getting lost down endless rabbit holes?
That's where having filters becomes absolutely essential. You need to apply 3 crucial filters to any information you gather: relevance, timeliness, and credibility.
Okay, relevance, timeliness, credibility. Break those down.
First, relevance. Does this piece of information actually help me with the specific decision or problem I'm facing right now, or is it just interesting trivia? Be ruthless about staying focused and avoiding those tempting but irrelevant rabbit holes.
Got it. Filter 1, relevance. What's 2?
Second, timeliness. Is this information recent? Is it up to date? The world changes incredibly fast, especially in areas like technology, markets, even social trends. Don't base your strategy for tomorrow on advice that was relevant 5 years ago. Check the dates.
Good point. Okay, timeliness. And the third filter?
Third, credibility. Who is providing this information? Where is it coming from? Are they a proven expert with actual experience in this area? Or are they just someone with a loud opinion or something to sell? Learn to distinguish the credible signal from the overwhelming noise. Find trustworthy sources.
Okay, relevance, timeliness, credibility. Once you have good sources, how do you approach the research itself?
A good approach is often to go wide first, then go deep.
Wide, then deep. Example.
Sure. Let's say you want to improve your personal finances. You might start wide by reading a couple of well-regarded foundational books on investing and budgeting. Compare different perspectives. Then, you might go deeper by researching specific investment options relevant to your situation, maybe talking to a few people who've successfully achieved the financial goals you're aiming for.
Makes sense.
And here's a key differentiator for strategic thinkers. Don't just stop at collecting surface-level facts. Consistently push yourself to ask deeper questions. Okay, what's the real implication of this fact? What's the broader context here? How does this general principle apply specifically to my unique situation, my goals, my constraints? Strategic thinkers never just stop at what happened. They always dig deeper to understand why it happened, and critically, what lessons can I learn and apply from this?
This all sounds really solid, but I can already hear that little voice nagging in some listeners' heads, probably mine too. Okay, but what about overthinking? Isn't there a danger of getting stuck in research forever? Or, the flip side, what about just jumping in too quickly without enough info? Those feel like real danger zones.
They absolutely are. You've nailed the 2 extremes: paralysis by analysis on one end and reckless execution on the other. Strategic thinking is all about finding the intelligent balance between them.
Okay, the balance.
Some people definitely fall into the trap of endless research. They're always seeking that one more piece of data, that elusive, perfect answer, before they can possibly act. But perfection is a myth in the real world. You will never feel 100% ready or certain.
True.
Others react to that fear by just acting impulsively, jumping in without adequate planning or information. That often leads to preventable mistakes and frequent crashes. Both extremes are dangerous.
So what's the balanced approach?
The balanced approach is this. Learn just enough to genuinely understand the landscape. Identify your most critical knowledge gaps, what you really need to know to make a decent decision. Fill those specific gaps. Then move forward with a plan that is both strong and flexible.
Strong but flexible, like don't build a house without a blueprint.
Exactly. But don't spend forever redrawing the blueprint either, refusing to ever break ground. Your goal isn't perfect, exhaustive information. It's achieving sufficient strategic intelligence.
Sufficient strategic intelligence. I like that. How do you know when you have it?
Ask yourself this question. What is the minimum viable knowledge I need to act wisely in this situation? Once you feel you've reached that point, not certainty, but sufficiency, then it's time to act. You can and should refine your approach as you gather more data from taking action.
Okay, so it's not just about collecting facts passively. It's about actively turning that raw information into usable, actionable insight. How do we make that leap?
This is where true strategy separates itself from just being a trivia champion. Collecting facts is never the end goal. You absolutely must transform that raw information into genuine insight.
How? What questions should we ask?
Ask questions like, looking at all this information, what patterns are emerging? What seems to be working consistently for others in this area? And more importantly, why is it working? Where are the obvious gaps or unanswered questions? And maybe the most strategic question, what are others missing? What angle or opportunity is overlooked that I could potentially leverage to my advantage?
Can you give an example of that transformation?
Sure. Let's go back to that career change example.
Yeah.
You research in-demand skills in your target field. You collect the data. But the insight comes when you notice a pattern. The roles you're most excited about consistently value strong storytelling combined with data analysis skills.
The combination is the insight.
That's the crucial insight. Now, you don't just vaguely know what's in demand. You know the specific intersection of skills that gives you an edge. So what's the action? You focus your learning specifically on both those areas. You build a project that showcases both skills. You strategically position yourself in your applications and interviews, highlighting that unique combination. That's research turned into targeted strategic action.
Is there a simple method for this insight to action process?
There's a simple, effective three-step method you can use. First, collect smart. Use those filters. Relevance, timeliness, credibility. Don't just gather everything. Second, synthesize fast. Don't just stare at the data. Actively look for connections. Combine different pieces of information. Look for overlaps, contradictions, tensions, and especially opportunities. Third, act immediately. Don't let the insight just sit there. Apply it. Start with small, low-risk experiments based on your insight. Test your hypothesis quickly. Learn even faster from the results.
Collect smart, synthesize fast, act immediately.
Remember, data means absolutely nothing without direction and interpretation. And insight, no matter how brilliant, is merely intellectual entertainment if it doesn't lead to informed action.
That makes sense. And you also mentioned that beyond the immediate decision, gathering information can be seen as a long-term asset, almost like an investment.
Absolutely. Strategic thinkers view knowledge acquisition not just as a task for a specific problem, but as an ongoing investment in their cognitive toolkit. The more you intentionally learn across different domains, the more connections your brain is able to make, the more patterns you start to recognize subconsciously.
That's why top performers seem to read constantly.
That's a huge part of it. They're not just reading to memorize facts for a test. They're training their minds to see differently. They're building this vast mental toolbox filled with models, analogies, and frameworks.
So when a challenge comes up.
Exactly. So when a tough negotiation arises or a split-second decision is needed, they can almost effortlessly pull out precisely the right tool, the relevant insight, the useful pattern they recognize from something they learned months or even years ago. That's the compounding result of consistent strategic preparation.
So the takeaway here is to be intentional about learning.
Yes. Ask yourself right now, what specific area of my life or work would dramatically improve if I just became a little bit better informed about it? What knowledge gap is holding me back? Identify that area, and then strategically dig in. Not forever remember sufficiency, but learn enough so you can act demonstrably smarter and more effectively than the 90% of people who simply never do their homework. Remember, fast is good, smart is better. But fast and smart, that's truly unbeatable.
Advanced strategic skills, seeing the board in anticipation.
Okay, we've laid a really strong foundation now with clarity and information. Let's move into some of the more advanced strategic skills. We often come back to that chess analogy,
Yeah.
and it feels perfect for this next concept, seeing the board. The idea that an amateur player just focuses on their next move.
Right, just reacting to what's immediately in front of them.
Yeah. But a master player sees the entire board. They see the patterns, the relationships between the pieces, and they're thinking several moves ahead.
Absolutely. And that ability translates directly to life, business, relationships, everything. It's never just about what's immediately in front of you, the urgent thing demanding attention. The most powerful strategists, they don't just react to individual pieces moving, they truly see the board.
What does that mean, practically, seeing the board?
It means understanding how all the different parts fit together to form the whole picture. It means recognizing the underlying patterns and dynamics at play. And critically, it means anticipating what's likely to happen next, often long before anyone else even senses a shift. This kind of big picture thinking is honestly a superpower in our incredibly noisy, short attention span world.
And central to that big picture view is something called systems thinking. Can you unpack that a bit? What does systems thinking mean in practice?
Systems thinking is essentially the ability to perceive how individual parts connect, interact, and influence each other to form a cohesive whole system. Instead of looking at problems or events in total isolation, a systems thinker recognizes the broader patterns, the interdependencies, and often the hidden root causes driving the surface-level symptoms.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, imagine you're a manager and suddenly your team's productivity starts dropping. The reactive approach. Blame the individuals, assume they're getting lazy or unmotivated.
Yeah, that's common.
Right. But a systems thinker pauses, they zoom out, they ask different questions. Has the overall workload increased recently? Are the tools or processes we're using inefficient? Is communication breaking down somewhere along the line? Is there something happening upstream, maybe another department's delays that's causing a bottleneck and frustration downstream?
Ah, looking for the connections.
Exactly. They're looking at the whole system, not just the isolated symptom. Every challenge, every opportunity is part of a larger system. Once you understand how that system works, the flows, the feedback loops, the leverage points, you gain the power to influence it, maybe even redesign parts of it, and ultimately to outsmart it.
So it really boils down to connecting the dots, where other people just see random events or chaos.
Precisely. Strategic thinkers have this uncanny ability to connect dots that others completely miss. They see relationships across seemingly disparate industries, different disciplines, even across time. While most people stay focused within their narrow lane, strategists are constantly scanning the entire horizon.
Looking for what?
Looking for emerging trends, potential tipping points, understanding the ripple effects of actions, seeing the hidden relationships between players or forces. This ability is rare and therefore incredibly powerful.
You mentioned Elon Musk earlier.
He's a prime example of this kind of perspective, isn't he? Connecting renewable energy with electric transport, with AI, with space exploration, seeing how these seemingly separate fields could synergize. That's profound perspective built on connecting dots others didn't see.
So how can we practice connecting dots?
You don't need to be a billionaire tech mogul. Just practice zooming out regularly and asking yourself bigger picture questions. How does this specific issue fit into the larger context of my life or work? If I make this decision, what are the likely second and third order consequences down the line? Who else is affected by this, directly or indirectly? What underlying pattern might be emerging here that I'm not seeing yet? Big picture thinkers don't just see what is, they're constantly exploring what could be.
And this helps sharpen pattern recognition.
Absolutely. Pattern recognition is arguably the strategist's greatest weapon. Why? Because human behavior, market dynamics, technological adoption, even personal growth, they all tend to follow recognizable patterns. If you can learn to spot these patterns early,
You can predict things.
you can anticipate likely outcomes, yes. You can avoid repeating common mistakes, your own or others. And you can identify high leverage points where a small intervention can create a big shift. Even recognizing your own patterns, like noticing you always rush decisions when under pressure, that's a pattern. Recognizing it allows you to strategically plan to slow down next time.
This sounds a bit like tactical mapping. Almost like what military generals or maybe high-stakes negotiators do. Mapping the landscape, figuring out the players, the power dynamics, the positions.
It's a fantastic analogy, and this is definitely where strategy gets very tactical and practical. Great strategists meticulously map the landscape before they make a move. They never enter a significant situation blind. They systematically ask, first, who are all the players involved? Not just the obvious ones, but direct and indirect stakeholders, influencers, potential allies, potential blockers. Second, who holds the power in this situation? Who actually makes the final decisions? Who shapes opinions? Who controls the critical resources? Power isn't always where the official org chart says it is. Third, what are each player's positions, or more importantly, their underlying interests? What do they stand to gain or lose from different outcomes? What are their likely alliances or conflicts?
So you're mapping the human terrain.
Exactly. Whether it's a complex business negotiation, a team project, or even navigating a new social circle, this kind of mapping provides unparalleled clarity. When you understand the structure of power and the web of interests, you can position yourself and your proposals with immense intelligence.
Like applying for a job.
Perfect example. Don't just send a generic resume. Map the landscape. Research the hiring manager, the team members, their backgrounds, the company's stated values versus its rumored culture. Identify potential internal advocates you might know. That's how you play the board intelligently. Even in personal relationships, understanding the influences, the emotional dynamics, the unspoken expectations, that's mapping the landscape too. Seeing the board this way helps you avoid hidden political traps and spot strategic opportunities others completely miss.
So it's not just thinking wide across the players in power, but also thinking long, considering different layers and timelines.
Exactly. Big picture thinking requires you to think both wide and long. You need to consider various timelines simultaneously. What are the immediate consequences of this action? What about next week, next month, next year, 5 years out?
And the layers.
And you need to think in layers. There's the surface issue everyone sees, then there's the deeper underlying cause, and then there are the effects that ripple out 3 or 4 steps later.
Like that career switch example again.
Right. Thinking in layers means looking beyond just the salary change. How will this new role affect my day-to-day lifestyle? What new skills will I gain, and how valuable are they long-term? Where does this specific role realistically lead in 5 years?
Yeah.
What future doors does it open? Critically, what doors might it close? That's layered thinking. It transforms simple decisions into much more profound strategic investments.
Is there a daily exercise for this?
Yes, a simple but powerful one. Before taking any significant action, consciously zoom out. Ask yourself, what is the likely ripple effect of this move, not just right now, but over time and across different areas of my life? Practice this consistently, and you'll soon find yourself naturally thinking on multiple levels, like a chess grandmaster scanning the entire board.
And the goal here is really to avoid that common dangerous trap of tunnel vision, right?
Absolutely. One of the greatest dangers in life and work is getting so narrowly focused on solving one immediate problem that you completely ignore the larger context, the bigger picture. Tunnel vision leads directly to poor decisions, like optimizing for immediate speed but sacrificing long-term sustainability, like winning today's argument but damaging the relationship for tomorrow, like solving one problem in your department while unknowingly creating 3 bigger problems for another department.
Right. Unintended consequences.
Exactly. Strategic thinkers instinctively zoom out before they zoom in. They always check. Is this action truly aligned with my long game? What are the real trade-offs I'm making, even the hidden ones? Am I even focused on solving the right problem here, or just the most obvious one? It's not about being overly cautious or slow. It's about being profoundly composed and calculated. When you genuinely learn to see the board, you become that rare individual who can remain calm and effective amidst chaos simply because you've already mapped the terrain. You see further, so you play smarter. And that ability to see the whole board is precisely how you start to outsmart challenges, often before they even fully materialize.
That connects perfectly into our next advanced skill, which feels like the natural outcome of seeing the board. Anticipation. You put it so well earlier. The one who sees ahead quietly takes the lead.
It really is the silent superpower, isn't it? In almost every competitive situation, whether it's business, sports, negotiation, even navigating office politics, the person who has quietly, calmly seen what's coming next, they decisively take the lead. There's no drama, no panic, just this almost effortless calculation.
Because they're prepared.
They're prepared because they've already thought it through. While everyone else is scrambling to react to the current situation, the anticipator is already executing a pre-planned strategy designed for what happens next. That's the profound power of anticipation. Strategic thinkers don't just passively wait for the wave to hit them. They watch the tide, they read the currents, and they strategically position themselves long before the storm arrives.
So they prepare not just for what's likely, but what's possible.
Exactly. They develop the ability to think 2, 3, sometimes even 10 steps ahead. And crucially, they do this not with fear or anxiety, but with clarity and confidence. That's the skill we're talking about here.
So it really is the art of thinking several moves ahead, just like that chess master we keep mentioning.
Precisely. What truly separates the amateur from the master in chess isn't just knowing the rules, it's the depth of their anticipation. The master understands that every single move fundamentally alters the future possibilities of the game. They don't just ask, what's a good move for me right now? They're constantly asking, if I make this move, what will it trigger? How is my opponent likely to respond? And where will this whole sequence of moves probably lead us 5 turns from now?
How does that translate into everyday life examples?
Think about someone starting a side hustle today, not just for extra cash now, but anticipating the freedom and options it could provide 5 years down the road. Think about wisely saying no to a tempting but slightly misaligned opportunity now, because you anticipate it will lead you away from a much bigger, better yes later. Or think about diligently investing time and energy into building a key relationship now, anticipating the trust and support you'll be able to rely on in the future.
So it's not magic, it's foresight.
It's foresight, exactly. And it's a skill you cultivate. You build it by consistently stepping outside the immediate moment, pausing, and asking, okay, if I take this path, what's the likely chain reaction? What happens next and then next? The more you consciously practice this, the more instinctive and natural it becomes. You'll literally start to see potential future outcomes forming in your mind like fight shadows before they arrive.
But life isn't always linear or predictable, right? Curveballs happen. So how do strategists deal with that uncertainty? You mentioned the scenario plan for multiple futures.
Exactly. Because life is unpredictable, great strategists don't just bet everything on one single prediction coming true. That's too risky. Instead, they meticulously scenario plan. They prepare contingency plans for multiple plausible futures.
This isn't about being negative or paranoid.
Not at all. It's about strategic positioning and resilience. It's about ensuring you're prepared no matter what happens. Here's a common way to scenario plan. First, map out the likely scenario. This is your baseline plan, what you think will probably happen. Second, envision the best case scenario. If things go exceptionally well, how do you capitalize? How do you scale up or double down on success? Third, confront the worst case scenario if things go badly wrong. How do you protect yourself? What's your damage control plan? What's your exit strategy if needed? And finally, consider the wildcard scenario. What if something completely unforeseen and disruptive occurs? A sudden market crash, a new competitor emerges from nowhere, a global pandemic.
Right.
This comprehensive approach is standard practice for serious entrepreneurs, military leaders, even disaster planners, and it works just as powerfully for navigating your career, your finances, even major life decisions. The goal isn't to perfectly predict the future, it's to be profoundly prepared so you can thrive no matter which future actually shows up.
So it's really about having that hidden armor. You talked about contingency thinking, like having backup plans.
That's exactly it. Think of it as your mental parachute. Contingency thinking is having plan B, plan C, maybe even plan D already sketched out in your back pocket before you even need them.
Why is that so powerful?
It's incredibly powerful for 2 reasons. First, it removes a huge amount of fear and anxiety. Knowing you have backup options frees you up mentally. Second, it builds unshakable confidence. It allows you to act more boldly on plan A, knowing that even if it fails, you're not completely stuck. It keeps you moving forward calmly, even when setbacks occur.
The mental parachute. I like that. Hope you don't need it.
But knowing it's there frees you to jump. You should consistently ask yourself, okay, what's my next move if this current approach doesn't work out? How can I pivot quickly without losing all my momentum? What small adjustments could turn this potential setback into an unexpected stepping stone? Contingency thinking makes you incredibly resilient. Obstacles stop being terrifying dead ends and start looking like invitations to find an alternate route. You stop fearing uncertainty and actually start to embrace it, knowing you're always covered.
This feels like it extends naturally into reading people, too, anticipating their behavior. That seems like it could be an almost unfair advantage in some situations.
It is an absolutely unstoppable strategic advantage when used ethically. Think about it. Almost every significant decision, negotiation, collaboration, or conflict involves other people. And while every individual is unique, human behavior, especially under pressure or when certain needs are triggered, follows surprisingly predictable patterns if you know what to look for.
Okay, so how do you read people like a strategist? What are you looking for?
There are a few key elements. First, study their underlying motivations. Go beyond what they say they want. What do they really want deep down? Respect, security, power, freedom, connection. Understanding their core drivers is key. Second, watch their patterns of behavior. How do they typically act under pressure in conflict situations? When faced with change, past behavior is often the best predictor of future behavior. Third, listen between the lines. Pay attention not just to the words, but to the tone, the pauses, the body language, what's not being said, what emotions or fears might be driving their communication or their silence. Finally, based on all that, anticipate their likely reactions. If you challenge their idea, will they get defensive? If you offer praise, will they open up? If you propose a significant change, will they resist instinctively?
And when you can anticipate reactions.
When you can anticipate how someone is likely to react, your strategic options multiply exponentially. You can tailor your communication for maximum impact. You can lead more effectively by addressing their underlying concerns. You can negotiate much more precisely. You can diffuse potential conflicts before they escalate. And you can build trust more quickly by demonstrating you understand them. The better you see them, the better you can predict their moves, and therefore, the better you can work with them towards positive outcomes.
Okay, this is powerful stuff. So what specific habits can we build to make this kind of anticipation almost second nature? How do we train that muscle?
Great question. To cultivate anticipation as a reflex, not just an occasional thought, here are 5 daily or weekly practices you can integrate. First, pause before you decide. We talked about the 3-second rule earlier. Extend that slightly for bigger decisions. Actively create space between the stimulus and your response. In that space, deliberately ask, what are the next 3 likely consequences of this move I'm considering? Just naming them helps.
Okay, pause and predict consequences. What else?
Second, play mental simulations. Regularly run what-if scenarios in your mind. Visualize potential future situations, good ones, bad ones, even strange ones. Ask yourself, how would I effectively respond if this scenario unfolded? This builds mental agility and prepares you for surprises. Third, use the 1-10-10 rule. Before making a decision with potentially long-term impact, ask, how will this likely affect me or the situation in 10 minutes, in 10 months, and in 10 years? This forces you to expand your time horizon beyond the immediate.
10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. Got it. 2 more.
Fourth, keep a what-if journal. This makes the mental simulation more concrete. Regularly jot down potential challenges or opportunities you see on the horizon and brainstorm. What if X happens? How would I respond? What's my plan B? This is disciplined contingency training on paper. Finally, fifth, debrief your decisions. After key moments or projects, take time to reflect honestly. What did I expect to happen? What actually occurred? Why was there a difference? What signals did I miss? What could I have anticipated better? This turns raw experience into valuable wisdom for next time.
Pause, simulate, use 1010, journal what-ifs, and debrief.
Every time you practice these, you sharpen your strategic edge. You build the mental reflexes you need for high-stakes moments. Remember, anticipation isn't about living in fear of the future. It's about becoming a master of navigating the unknown. It's the fundamental shift from simply reacting to events to proactively shaping them. You don't have to predict the entire future perfectly. You just need to see a little bit further and clearer than the average person who's stuck in the present moment.
Advanced strategic skills, timing, and leverage.
Okay, we've covered seeing the whole board and the crucial skill of anticipation. Now let's talk about timing, because as that classic saying goes, the right move at the wrong time is still the wrong move. Timing seems critical.
Oh, it's absolutely critical. That quote perfectly encapsulates a profound strategic truth. Timing isn't just part of the strategy. In many cases, timing is the strategy. It's often the quiet, almost invisible force behind every major success or failure. You can have immense power, brilliant insight, a bold vision, but if your timing is off, none of it matters.
Yeah.
Move too soon, before the conditions are right, and you waste resources, maybe alert competitors, or fail because the market isn't ready. Wait too long, hesitate when the window opens, and you miss the opportunity entirely. But if you can learn to strike at that perfect moment when conditions align, well, then the world seems to open up for you. This is all about mastering when to act and, just as importantly, when not to act.
Okay, and this might sound counterintuitive for a strategic mind focused on action, but you strongly suggest in the book that patience is the ultimate strategic weapon. Why is patience so important here? Isn't strategy about making moves?
It is about making moves, but making the right moves at the right time.
Hmm.
And honestly, most people and most organizations fail not from a lack of ideas or ambition, but because they move too fast. They get impatient. They chase short-term wins, act on impulse, or react to pressure.
Yeah, patience feels passive sometimes.
To many people, patience does feel like weakness, like doing nothing. But true strategic patience is the opposite of passive. It is profoundly active patience. It means waiting with acute awareness. It means preparing diligently while others are panicking. It means observing intently when others are rushing blindly into action.
Can you give an analogy for active patience?
Think of a predator like an eagle soaring high above. It doesn't just dive randomly. It circles, it observes its prey, it waits for the perfect moment, the slight hesitation, and then it dives with incredible speed and precision. Or think of a skilled archer. They don't just yank the bowstring and let fly immediately. They draw the bow, they take aim meticulously, they control their breathing, they wait for the wind to be just right, and then they release. Or a seasoned negotiator. They don't jump in with demands. They listen intently, they absorb information, they wait for the other side to reveal their hand, and then they respond with surgical precision. This kind of waiting is never passive. It is exquisitely calculated. It's understanding the crucial difference between mere motion and truly purposeful progress. The ultimate goal isn't just to act fast, it's to act right. And often, acting right requires waiting for the right moment.
Okay, active patience. So how do we learn to identify those high leverage moments, those specific times when it is the right time to finally make that move?
Identifying high leverage moments, those strategic sweet spots, where a relatively small action can create massive results, is a key skill. They're often easy to miss unless you're actively looking for them with a patient, observant eye. Here are a few ways to spot them. First, watch for tension peaks. Often the most potent time to act is when underlying tension in a situation is highest. Your calculated action, your decisive move, can serve to break the tension, bring clarity, or force a resolution. Think about a negotiation where silence stretches almost to its limit. The next word spoken can be incredibly powerful. Second, learn to time the market, not just your mood. Align your strategic moves with external readiness, not just your internal impatience or excitement. Your feelings can easily lie to you. Underlying market patterns or social readiness rarely do. Are people ready for your idea? Third, monitor the signals, not just the noise. Look for the subtle shifts, the quiet whispers of an emerging opportunity or a changing tide. True opportunity often whispers its arrival long before it starts knocking loudly on the door. Be attuned to those weak signals. Fourth, consciously leverage the readiness window. Timing isn't just about your readiness to act. It's often more about the world's readiness to receive your action. Don't launch your brilliant product too early before anyone understands the need, or too late after 5 competitors have already established themselves.
I like that surfing analogy you used before reading the waves.
It's perfect, isn't it? You don't control the waves, the external conditions,
Well,
but if you learn to read them, to feel the rhythm of the ocean, you know precisely when to start paddling, when to pop up, and when to ride the wave's power. That's identifying the high leverage moment.
oh, okay. So on the flip side of waiting for the right moment, how do we avoid the trap of impulse decisions? Those seem like the absolute enemy of great timing.
Impulsiveness is indeed the arch enemy of great strategic timing. We've all felt that powerful urge, that adrenaline rush, to do something immediately, especially under pressure. And sometimes, purely by luck, an impulsive move might work out. But most of the time, it doesn't. Why? Because impulsive decisions are inherently reactive. They lack critical context and foresight. And in strategy, context and foresight are everything.
So what are some tactics to combat impulsiveness without becoming totally paralyzed?
Here are a few practical tactics. First, build in a mandatory delay rule for yourself. For any significant decision, anything with real consequences, force yourself to take a minimum 24-hour pause before committing. This one simple habit can save you thousands of dollars and countless future regrets.
Does sleep on it?
Basically, yes. Sleep on it. Let the initial emotion subside. Second, ask the 5-year question. Before acting impulsively, ask, will this decision, this action, this comment genuinely matter in 5 years? This instantly reframes temporary emotional urges into a long-term strategic perspective. Often the answer is no.
Good reality check.
Third, check your personal triggers. What situations or emotions consistently throw off your timing? Is it fear of missing out? Ego getting involved? Simple boredom leading to rash action? Identify your specific triggers, and then you can consciously interrupt the spiral when you feel them starting. Fourth, consult a neutral voice. Run your potentially impulsive decision by a trusted friend, mentor, or colleague who isn't emotionally invested. They can often provide an objective mirror, spotting timing flaws or risks you're missing. Finally, consciously shift from reaction to response. Remember, reacting is instant, almost involuntary. Responding is intentional, considered. Always aim for the latter. Strategy is about deliberately stacking the odds in your favor, not just gambling on adrenaline.
Okay, that covers impulsiveness. But what about the opposite extreme we mentioned earlier? Analysis paralysis. Some people get so caught up in research and planning that they just never act. They miss the moment entirely.
Analysis paralysis is just as detrimental to success as impulsiveness, maybe even more insidious because it feels productive. These are the individuals who wait too long, endlessly analyzing every possible angle, imagining every potential failure mode. They research themselves into inaction. They miss the train because they never dared to step onto the platform.
How do you break free from that without sacrificing strategic thinking?
You need tactics to move through it without resorting to recklessness. First, set a clear decision deadline. Give yourself a realistic but firm timeline for making the call. Clarity and action often love a ticking clock. Second, consciously define enough information. Remember, you don't need all the facts in an impossible standard. You just need the right facts, the sufficient strategic intelligence we talked about. Define what enough looks like for this decision. Third, embrace the 70% rule. This comes from leaders like Jeff Bezos. If you feel you have about 70% of the information you need and are about 70% confident in your decision, then move forward. Waiting for 100% certainty means you will almost always miss the window of opportunity. Fourth, trust your process, not just the outcome. If you know you've done your due diligence, gathered sufficient intelligence, consider the angles, trust that your underlying thinking process is sound. Your timing is probably close enough. Remember, perfection is the enemy of progress. Often, momentum matters more than achieving absolute mastery before you start. You can always adjust your course once you're moving, but you can't steer a parked car.
So it really comes down to finding that delicate balance, that strategic sweet spot between moving too fast and waiting too long, between speed and stillness.
Precisely. Strategy, when executed elegantly, is a sophisticated dance between profound patience and surgical precision. You need the wisdom to wait just long enough to see the full picture, to let the situation ripen. But you also need the courage and decisiveness to act fast enough with conviction when your identified moment arrives.
The dance between patience and precision.
It's the art of being both incredibly ready and incredibly patient simultaneously. When your moment comes, you don't hesitate. You move with unwavering confidence, power, and clarity because you've done the work, you've waited for the opening.
Can you give examples of that sweet spot?
Think of a tech founder who doesn't rush their product launch before it's truly ready, resisting market pressure, but who also doesn't tinker endlessly and miss their critical market window. Or think of a job seeker who patiently waits for the perfect role alignment, saying no to good but not great offers, but then moves swiftly and decisively when the right opportunity appears. Or a writer or artist who meticulously refines their work until it's genuinely great, but doesn't get lost in over-editing forever and never actually publishes or shares it. That intersection is the sweet spot of strategic timing. Master it, and you stop feeling like you're endlessly chasing life, always one step behind. You begin to meet life exactly where its power and potential impact are greatest for you. Time stops being your enemy. It becomes your most potent strategic weapon.
That's a fantastic transition to our next major concept, leverage. Because mastering timing helps you identify the right moment, but leverage helps you maximize the impact of your actions in that moment. You call leverage the secret behind every outsized success story, arguing it's rarely just about pure hustle.
It's absolutely true. The prevailing myth, especially in some cultures, is that massive success comes only from relentless, grinding 18-hour days, just pure hustle. And while hard work is undeniably important, the real secret behind almost every story of outsized success, disproportionate results, is rarely just the volume of effort. It's fundamentally about the strategic application of leverage.
Define leverage for us in this context.
Leverage is simply using a small, focused input, an effort, a resource, an insight, to create a massive, disproportionate output. Think about trying to lift a car with your bare hands. Impossible for most people, right?
Yeah, definitely for me.
But with a simple hydraulic jack, a lever, the task becomes almost effortless. That's leverage in action. It makes the impossible possible, the difficult easy. And the best part is, leverage isn't some magic trick reserved for billionaires or physics geniuses. It's a way of thinking that's available to you right now. You don't need superpowers. You just need to start thinking like a strategist about how to achieve more with less unnecessary effort. The core goal is to shift from pushing harder to pulling smarter.
Okay, pulling smarter. So what does leverage really mean practically, day to day, beyond the cool analogies?
Practically speaking, strategic leverage is about intentionally creating a force multiplier in your actions. It's designing your efforts so that one focused action produces exponential, not just linear, results.
Can you give some concrete examples of leverage?
Sure. Think about a single powerfully crafted social media post that goes viral, reaching thousands more people than weeks of individual outreach could. That's leverage. Think about setting up intelligent automation for routine tasks, saving you hours every single week, freeing you up for higher value work. That's leverage. Think about nurturing a key relationship with someone who eventually opens doors to partnerships or opportunities you could never have accessed alone. That's leverage. Or making one insightful strategic decision that eliminates 10 recurring daily problems or frees up significant resources. That's leverage.
Okay, so it's about the impact of the action, not just the action itself.
Exactly. The best strategists don't just ask, what do I need to do? They constantly ask a different set of questions. How can I make this easier? How can I make this smarter? How can I design this effort to be profoundly more effective with less brute force? That fundamental mindset shift changes absolutely everything.
So if we want to start using leverage, step one must be identifying where our leverage points actually are. You connect this strongly to the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle.
Yes, the first and arguably most powerful step in applying leverage is identifying where your potential leverage already resides, often hidden in plain sight. The 80-20 rule is a fantastic lens for this. It suggests that in many situations, roughly 80% of your results come from only 20% of your efforts.
Right, and the flip side is also true.
The flip side is often that you're spending 80% of your effort, generating only 20% of your results. So the strategic imperative is clear. Identify that vital 20% of actions, inputs, or resources that are driving the vast majority of your positive outcomes. Then figure out how to double down, amplify, or protect that critical few. Simultaneously, identify the 80% of effort that's yielding minimal results and figure out how to reduce, delegate, automate, or eliminate it.
Where do people commonly find these leverage points?
There are 4 common areas where leverage points often hide. First, time leverage. What repetitive tasks are eating up your valuable time? Can they be automated with software, delegated to someone else, even virtual assistants, or simply eliminated altogether because they don't add real value? Second, skill leverage. What is your unique skill, your superpower, the thing you do better than almost anyone else that delivers the biggest return? Are you maximizing your time and energy on that skill, or are you diluting your efforts on things others could do? Third, network leverage. Who in your existing network has the access, the answers, the influence, or the resources you need? How can you ethically tap into that network? Finally, platform leverage. Are you building assets like valuable content, useful tools, a strong reputation, a loyal audience that can work for you even while you sleep? These assets create ongoing leverage. The core idea isn't necessarily to do more, it's to strategically do less, but ensure that what you do choose to do is amplified for maximum impact.
Okay, so once you've identified potential leverage points, the next step is actually working smarter, not harder. What are some practical tactics to help us make that shift from pure effort to smart effort?
It's a critical shift, and it requires breaking old habits. That myth that success only comes from relentless, exhausting hard work is deeply ingrained. Effort absolutely matters, but smart leveraged effort is what truly distinguishes sustainable high performers. Here are some ways to work smarter. First, batch and block. Group similar types of tasks together, like answering all your emails in one block, making all your calls in another, doing all your creative deep work in a dedicated, uninterrupted block. This minimizes the mental cost of context switching and dramatically boosts focus and efficiency. Second, systematize repetition. If you find yourself doing the same task more than twice, create a system for it. Build templates for common emails or documents. Create checklists for recurring processes. Develop standard operating procedures, SOPs, for routine workflows. These systems save mental energy and ensure consistency. Third, use the rule of 3. At the start of each day or week, identify the 3 most important high-impact tasks that will move you closest to your strategic goals. Focus on completing those 3 things above all else. If everything feels like a priority, then effectively nothing is. This ruthless focus creates incredible leverage. Finally, and this is key, ask better questions. Instead of just defaulting to how can I get this done, constantly challenge yourself with leverage-seeking questions. How can this get done without me being directly involved? How could this be done faster or more efficiently? What strategic move could I make that would make this entire task unnecessary altogether? These kinds of questions open up smarter, more efficient paths forward.
And you highlighted one form of leverage that's incredibly powerful, but often feels underused or even awkward for people. Leveraging relationships. You quoted Isaac Newton. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants.
That quote perfectly captures the immense, often untapped power of leveraging the knowledge, experience, connections, and goodwill of others. You simply don't have to figure everything out on your own. Someone has likely already solved the problem you're facing or knows someone who has.
So how do you ethically build and use relationship leverage? It sounds potentially transactional.
That's the key. Ethics and authenticity are paramount. This isn't about cynically using people. It's about building genuine, mutually beneficial connections. Here's how. First, and most importantly, be a giver first. Consistently look for ways to help others, solve their problems, offer valuable insights or introductions with no immediate expectation of anything in return. This builds trust and goodwill, which are incredibly potent forms of long-term leverage. People naturally want to help those who have helped them.
Give first. Okay.
Second, map your network. Consciously think about who you know. What are their strengths, their areas of expertise, their connections? Where could they potentially help you? And just as importantly, where could you potentially help them or connect them with others? You'll often be surprised by the latent power within your existing network. Third, collaborate. Don't just compete. Look for opportunities to partner with people who have complementary skills or resources. Find ways where 1 + 1 can equal 5 through synergy. Finally, actively leverage mentors and allies. Don't be a technology, used strategically, is practically leverage on tap. Yet, so many people use incredibly powerful smartphones and computers primarily for consumption and distraction instead of creation and problem solving.
So how do we turn tools into strategic levers?
First, automate repetitive tasks. Identify anything routine and low value that eats up your time and find a tool to do it. Use Calendly or similar apps for scheduling. Use Zapier or IFTTT to connect different apps and automate workflows. Explore AI tools for drafting emails, summarizing research, or even generating code snippets. Every minute you successfully automate is a minute permanently reclaimed for higher-level thinking or action.
Use AI as an amplifier.
Exactly. Use AI as an amplifier, not necessarily a total replacement. Smart strategists are embracing AI not to become lazy, but to think faster, research deeper, overcome creative blocks, and execute cleaner plans. Ask yourself, what parts of my process could AI help me start, speed up, or simplify? Third, build or use systems. Whether it's creating project management dashboards, using robust spreadsheet templates, or adopting specific productivity methodologies, good systems manage complexity and free up your valuable brainpower for strategic thinking, not just managing details. Finally, invest once, benefit often. Sometimes the best leverage comes from investing upfront in the right equipment, the right software, or setting up the right physical environment that will serve you efficiently for years to come. Every tool you use is either a lever propelling you forward or a distraction pulling you back. Choose wisely.
And beyond just people and tech, you also broaden the definition of resources to leverage strategically.
Absolutely. When we think resources, we often default to just money. But strategic thinkers consider a much wider portfolio. Their time, their energy levels, their existing knowledge base, their network, as we discussed, even their current positioning or reputation.
So what questions should we ask about these broader resources?
Ask questions like, what assets or resources do I already possess that I'm currently underutilizing? What's sitting idle? Maybe it's old content you could repurpose, a skill you haven't used in a while, even physical space. Also ask, what single resource, if I could acquire it or leverage it differently, would fundamentally change the game for me right now? And sometimes the most creative question, how can I strategically turn what I currently lack into an advantage? Constraints can breed incredible creativity.
How might you do that? Turn a lack into an advantage.
Maybe you lack funding, so you focus on building a strong community first. Maybe you lack technical skills, so you partner with someone who has them, or you barter your skills for theirs. Maybe you repurpose old work into new formats instead of creating everything from scratch. It's about resourcefulness, utilizing what you have or can access better. Leverage is rarely about just having more stuff. It's about utilizing whatever you have or can acquire access to much smarter.
And finally, you make a really crucial point. Addressing the misconception that seeking leverage is somehow lazy or a shortcut.
Yes, this is so important to clarify, because sometimes when you talk about leverage, automation, or delegation, people get defensive. They think, well, that's not real work, or that's just taking the easy way out.
Yeah, the hustle culture bias.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here's the fundamental truth. Leverage isn't about escaping work. It's about intelligently designing your effort so that every single ounce you expend matters exponentially more. It's the critical difference between trying to dig a foundation for a house with a small spoon versus using a powerful excavator.
Nobody would call the excavator operator lazy.
Of course not. They'd call them smart. It's not cheating. It's thinking strategically about the best tool for the job. Grasp that fundamental concept, and you unlock an entirely new level of possibility and effectiveness in everything you do.
And the most powerful use of leverage.
The most powerful use of leverage, ultimately, is creating things that consistently compound over time. Building relationships that grow richer and more valuable. Creating intellectual assets like writing, software, or systems that continue to provide value long after the initial effort. Designing habits and routines that automate success and continuously improve your well-being and effectiveness. Leverage isn't just about maximizing today's effort. It's about strategically setting up wins that stack up tomorrow and the day after and for years to come. As Archimedes famously said, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I will move the world."
Through strategic thinking, you are finding your lever. You are establishing your place to stand. You are becoming ready to move your world with less brute force, much more finesse, and relentlessly multiplying strategic power. Masterful execution, agility, and influence.
Okay, we've covered an incredible amount of ground on strategic thinking, clarity, information, seeing the board, anticipation, timing, leverage. Powerful stuff. But, as you pointed out right at the start, and it's worth repeating, none of it matters if you don't execute. And life rarely goes exactly according to plan, does it? So the ability to adapt and pivot seems just as important as the initial plan itself.
It's absolutely critical. You could have the most brilliant, well-researched, perfectly timed strategy on paper, but the real world is messy, it's dynamic, it throws curveballs constantly. Many people, even those with great plans, freeze up or quit entirely when the unexpected inevitably arrives.
Yeah, the plan breaks.
Right. But the master strategist knows this secret. The plan is vital as your compass. It sets your direction. But your ability to navigate, adapt, and pivot effectively when the landscape changes, that's your essential steering skill. Adaptability is never a sign of weakness. It is intelligence in motion.
So define strategic agility for us.
Strategic agility is the capacity to respond to change and uncertainty with clarity and composure, not panic. It's about making quick, but still thoughtful decisions under pressure. And it's about realigning your actions and tactics effectively without abandoning your core long-term vision. Think of bamboo in a fierce storm.
It bends but doesn't break.
Exactly. It bends gracefully, adapts to the force, but its roots hold firm and it springs back. That's strategic agility. It's intelligence in dynamic motion.
Okay, so when things inevitably go sideways, how do we learn to pivot without panic? That sounds like the key.
Pivoting without panic starts with managing expectations. Panic often originates from being completely surprised, from feeling blindsided. So, the very first rule of strategic agility is to expect the unexpected. Don't assume a smooth ride. Know that change, disruption, setbacks, even failures, these are not anomalies. They are inevitable parts of any meaningful journey. The real question isn't, will something go wrong? It's, how ready am I to respond effectively when it does?
Okay, expect the unexpected, then what? How do you pivot calmly?
When the unexpected hits, resist the urge to react instantly. First, consciously slow down before you speed up. Even if everything feels urgent, take a deep breath. Create just a moment of space between the event and your response. In that space, ask clarifying questions. Okay, what's actually happening here, stripped of my emotional reaction? What matters most right now in this new reality?
Slow down first.
Second, reassess the landscape. Don't cling desperately to your old plan or assumptions if the ground has clearly shifted beneath you. Update your mental map in real time. Ask, what specific facts have changed? What core truths still hold? What assumptions that I was operating under are no longer valid? Third, based on that reassessment, define the new immediate objective. Revisit your original goal. Is it still achievable with adjustments? Or is there now a different, perhaps even better outcome available? What is the next best strategic move given these current circumstances? Pivoting isn't admitting defeat. It's intelligently recalculating your route based on new information. Just like your GPS recalculating when you hit unexpected traffic, it doesn't mean you failed to reach your destination. It just means you're still heading there, but now with better, updated data guiding you.
Okay. And sometimes in these chaotic moments, you have to make real-time decisions under intense pressure. You don't have time for lengthy analysis.
Yeah.
How do you do that effectively?
That's right. You don't always have the luxury of weeks of research or debate. Sometimes critical decisions must be made quickly, almost instantly. Strategic thinkers rely on a few core principles to do this effectively under pressure. First, they often implicitly or explicitly use something like the Odo loop. Developed by military strategist John Boyd, it's a rapid cycle. Observe, orient, decide, act. Quickly observe the unfolding facts. Orient yourself to their meaning and implications within the current context. Decide on the best available course of action now, and then act swiftly, while already preparing to cycle back through. Observe based on the results of your action. It's a fluid framework for rapid, iterative thinking that keeps you sharp and adaptable. Second, they rely on predefined decision filters. When pressure mounts and emotions run high, you don't want to be inventing your decision criteria on the fly. Strategists often predefine their non-negotiables. Does this option align with our core values? Does it protect our long-term strategic vision? Does it avoid causing irreversible damage? Having these filters established before the crisis hits allows you to cut through the noise and make faster, more consistent choices. Third, they learn to trust their trained instinct. Strategic agility isn't just cold, hard analysis. It's often a blend of rigorous thinking and sharpened intuition. The more experience you gain, the more you practice strategic thinking, the more your gut feelings become educated guesses based on recognized patterns. Don't ignore your intuition, but make sure it's informed by experience and analysis.
This sounds like a constant tension for many people. Trying to stay flexible enough to adapt, but also staying focused enough to actually reach the goal. How do you strike that critical balance between being too rigid and being too scattered?
That is indeed where many people stumble. They become either too rigidly attached to their original plan, refusing to adapt even when circumstances clearly demand it, or they become too easily distracted, constantly changing direction with every new challenge or opportunity, never gaining real traction.
So what's the art?
The art lies in being fluid in approach but fixed in purpose. You need to know how to strike that delicate balance. Here are a few ways. First, hold your ultimate vision loosely. Hold your plan even looser. Your core, while your ultimate purpose or destination should remain relatively constant, but your how the specific path or plan to get there should be highly adaptable. If your goal is to climb a specific mountain, the vision, the exact trail you take, the plan, might need to change based on weather or obstacles encountered. Ask, what is the fundamental hill I'm trying to climb? Now, given the current terrain, what path is most effective right now? Flexibility in your approach isn't losing sight of the goal, it's finding a better road to get there.
Okay, fixed purpose, fluid approach.
Second, train yourself to use feedback, not fear, as your guide. Fear makes you retreat or freeze. Feedback, even negative feedback like a failed launch or a missed opportunity, makes you refine and improve. View everything that happens, expected or unexpected, and valuable feedback. Ask relentlessly. What is this situation teaching me? What can I learn from this? How can I improve my approach next time? The strategic mind actively feeds on feedback. Finally, maintain your core rituals, especially in chaos. When external circumstances become volatile and unpredictable, your adrenal routines become crucial anchors. Your morning routine that sets your mindset, your daily journaling practice, your weekly strategic review, keep these consistent. They serve as your personal compass and gyroscope, helping you maintain stability and clarity even when the world around you feels like it's spinning out of control.
Can you give us a couple of concrete, real-world examples of strategic agility really shining through?
Absolutely. We mentioned Netflix earlier. Their entire history is a masterclass in strategic agility. They started by mailing DVDs, a huge innovation at the time. But as internet speeds increased, they saw the writing on the wall. They didn't cling stubbornly to their profitable but ultimately doomed DVD model. They strategically pivoted, investing heavily in streaming even when it cannibalized their existing business.
Bold move.
Incredibly bold. Then they saw another shift coming, increased competition in streaming and rising content costs. So they pivoted again, transforming themselves into a major producer of original content, directly competing with established Hollywood studios. They constantly evolve their strategy based on anticipating and responding to market shifts. That's strategic agility, building an empire.
Powerful. Another example. Maybe smaller scale.
Sure. Think about that freelance event photographer we discussed, whose entire business vanished overnight during the pandemic lockdowns. Pure panic could have set in. Instead, she paused, assessed the new reality, and asked, okay, events are dead for now, but where is demand growing explosively right now? She identified the massive surge in e-commerce. She quickly researched the skills needed for high-quality product photography, invested in some basic lighting, learned remotely, and pivoted her business entirely. She built a simple home studio setup. Within 6 months, leveraging her existing photography skills but applying them to a new in-demand market, she was actually earning more than she had been before the crisis. She didn't just survive, she adapted with speed and clarity and ultimately thrived. That is strategic agility in its purest, most practical form.
That's a fantastic, inspiring example. Okay, shifting gears slightly within execution, you also delve into something you call psychological warfare in the book, asserting that true power often lies in influence, not just brute force or logic. What do you mean by that?
It's a critical, often overlooked aspect of strategy. In the complex human chess game of life, leadership, and negotiation, brute force, just pushing your agenda hard, rarely leads to sustainable wins. True, lasting power often resides in the much subtler art of influence.
Define influence in this strategic sense.
Strategic influence is the ability to ethically guide others' thoughts, feelings, perspectives, and ultimately their actions, often without them even realizing they're being guarded. Now, I use the term psychological warfare provocatively in the book, but let me be clear. This is not about manipulation in a negative or unethical sense.
Okay, important distinction.
It's about understanding the deep psychological drivers of human behavior. What truly motivates people, how they perceive the world, how they make decisions, and then using that understanding ethically to shape outcomes that are ideally beneficial for everyone involved. It's about tapping into those invisible forces that make truly masterful strategists so effective, often seemingly without effort.
So, like other strategic skills, it starts with understanding the landscape in this case, the landscape of human behavior and motivation.
Precisely. Before you can even think about influencing someone, you must develop a deep understanding of what actually moves people, what makes them tick. At the heart of every human decision is this complex, often subconscious web of emotions, needs, beliefs, and biases.
What are some key insights here?
First, recognize that people are predictably irrational. We all like to think we're logical creatures making rational choices. But decades of research in behavioral economics and psychology by people like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky show definitively that our decisions are profoundly influenced by emotions, ingrained habits, and unconscious cognitive biases. Our brains constantly use mental shortcuts or heuristics to make sense of the world quickly, but these shortcuts can often lead to systematic, irrational errors in judgment. Understanding these common biases helps you anticipate how people might react.
Okay, predictably irrational. What else?
Second, understand the power of three core human psychological needs, often cited in self-determination theory. The need for autonomy, feeling in control of one's own actions and choices. The need for belonging, feeling connected to others. And the need for competence, feeling capable and effective. When your strategy, your communication, your proposal taps into and supports these fundamental needs, you activate incredibly powerful intrinsic motivators.
Autonomy, belonging, competence.
Got it.
Got it. And the third insight.
Finally, never ever underestimate the profound power of storytelling. Humans are fundamentally wired for narrative. We think in stories, we remember in stories, we connect through stories. Dry facts and logical arguments might persuade the rational mind, but it's stories that truly move the heart, create empathy, simplify complexity, and anchor ideas in memory. Great strategists are almost always great storytellers, capable of transforming complex logic into compelling, influential narratives that resonate on an emotional level.
Okay, so once you have that deeper understanding of human motivation and psychology, the next step is applying it through strategic communication and persuasion. How do we do that effectively?
Knowing what moves people is just the starting point. The real skill lies in mastering how to communicate your ideas in a way that genuinely resonates, overcomes resistance, and inspires action. Here are some key elements. First, master the art of deep listening. Real persuasion rarely begins with talking. It begins with profound listening. Before you try to influence someone, you must first seek to understand their perspective, their fears, their values, their underlying objections, even the unspoken ones. Active, empathetic listening is not passive. It's an active search for the keys to their resistance and motivation. Second, learn to speak their language. Don't just use the words and arguments that make sense to you. Adapt your message, your framing, your analogies to resonate with their specific worldview, their values, their communication style. A highly analytical person responds best to data and logic. A more relationship-oriented person might respond better to appeals based on connection or impact on others. Tailor your approach. Third, understand and ethically apply the principle of reciprocity. This is a deeply ingrained social norm. People feel psychologically compelled to return favors, to give back when they have received something. Strategically, this means give first, offer genuine value, a helpful insight, a thoughtful compliment, access to your network often without any immediate strings attached. This builds goodwill and a subtle, ethical sense of obligation. But authenticity is absolutely crucial here. Cynical manipulation will always backfire eventually. Finally, understand the power of framing and anchoring. How you present information dramatically shapes how people perceive it and the decisions they make. Framing involves highlighting certain aspects of a situation while downplaying others, like focusing on potential gains versus potential losses. Anchoring involves setting an initial reference point that influences subsequent judgments, like starting a negotiation with a specific number. For example, framing a cost as $10 a day often feels much more affordable and acceptable than framing the exact same cost as $300 a month. Great strategists meticulously frame their proposals and anchor expectations for maximum psychological impact.
This all sounds incredibly powerful, maybe even dangerously so. You stressed this before, but let's revisit the ethical side of influence. How do we ensure we're using these powerful tools responsibly?
This is absolutely critical and it cannot be overstated. Influence, like any powerful tool, can be used to build wonderful things or to cause terrible destruction. With great power comes great responsibility, as the saying goes. Ethical influence is paramount.
What does ethical influence look like in practice?
It means rigorously respecting the autonomy and freedom of choice of the other person. It means strictly avoiding manipulation, coercion, deception, or preying on vulnerabilities. It means consistently striving for mutually beneficial win-win outcomes whenever possible, rather than just pursuing your own agenda at any cost. When you lead and influence with unwavering integrity, transparency, it's a genuine concern for the well-being of others, your influence builds something incredibly valuable and sustainable. Profound trust. And trust is the absolute bedrock of any lasting power or positive relationship.
So ethical influence isn't a weakness.
Ethical influence is never a weakness. It is arguably the most profound strategic strength you can cultivate over the long term. Think again about historical figures like Nelson Mandela. His immense power didn't come from force. It came from his ability to inspire reconciliation by deeply understanding the fears and hopes of both sides of a conflict and shifting a whole nation's mindset through empathetic, ethical communication. Or think about Steve Jobs. Yes, he was demanding, but his influence also came from selling dreams, not just products. He connected with customers' sense of identity, their aspirations, making Apple iconic through psychological resonance, not just technical specs.
That ethical foundation is key. Okay, we've covered agility and influence, but we keep coming back to the fact that none of this matters without execution. As you said, execution is the bridge between your ideas and your outcomes.
It absolutely is. Execution is where the rubber meets the road. It's where brilliant strategies, insightful plans, and noble intentions actually get translated into tangible results in the real world. So many potentially great ideas die on the vine simply due to poor execution.
Why do people struggle so much with execution?
There are many reasons. Sometimes the strategy itself is flawed or unclear, but often, even with a good strategy, people struggle with procrastination, get overwhelmed by the complexity, lose momentum, fail to adapt, or simply lack the discipline and systems to stay consistent. That's why this final piece on mastering execution is so critical. It's about how to reliably bridge that often treacherous gap between planning and doing.
Okay, so how do we build that bridge? How do we move reliably from plans to consistent action?
A great strategy without execution is just, well, it's just a wish list. The fundamental difference between those who achieve great things and those who just dream about them often comes down to this. The winners consistently do what they say they're going to do. The dreamers keep planning, keep hoping, keep waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. So how do you leap from planning to consistent doing? First, break it down into ridiculously small, clear steps. Grand strategies and big visions are inspiring, but they can also be incredibly overwhelming and paralyzing. The key is to chunk that big vision down into specific, manageable next action steps. Instead of a vague goal like grow my business, break it down into concrete actions like reach out to 5 potential clients via personalized email today, or draft the first 500 words of that important blog post this morning. Each tiny step completed builds momentum and confidence. Second, set clear deadlines and establish accountability. Goals without deadlines are just wishes with no urgency. Deadlines create necessary pressure. Accountability, whether it's reporting to a boss, a mentor, a mastermind group, or even just using an app to track your progress, transforms intention into committed action. Share your goals publicly if it helps. Find an accountability partner. Reward yourself for hitting milestones. Third, Ruthlessly eliminate distractions and bottlenecks. Honestly, identify what typically stops you from taking action. Is it fear of failure, crippling perfectionism, a distracting work environment, constant notifications? Once you identify your personal execution killers, proactively design your workspace, your schedule, and your habits to minimize friction and make it as easy as possible for momentum to flow freely.
Okay, break it down. Set deadlines with accountability and eliminate friction. And beyond just tackling individual tasks, you also emphasize building strategic habits and systems for reliable execution.
Yes, because sustainable execution isn't just about occasional bursts of heroic willpower. Willpower is a finite resource, it gets depleted. Truly effective execution over the long haul is built on a foundation of daily, consistent habits and reliable, repeatable systems. Habits automate success. Systems create unwavering consistency, even when motivation dips.
Talk about keystone habits first.
Build keystone habits. These are small, seemingly minor actions that, when done consistently, tend to trigger a cascade of other positive behaviors and ripple effects throughout your day or week. Think about things like a consistent morning routine that sets your mindset and priorities for the day, a daily habit of reviewing your top strategic goals, or even just 5 minutes of journaling to maintain clarity. Identify and cultivate the few keystone habits that align most powerfully with your specific strategy.
And systems for repetition.
Create systems for repetition. Anything you need to do regularly to execute your strategy, whether it's weekly planning, following up with customers, producing content, reviewing finances, should have a formalized workflow or routine built around it. Create templates, checklists, documented processes, SOPs. Robust systems dramatically reduce decision fatigue. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. They ensure that important, recurring actions happen consistently and effectively, freeing up your mental energy for more strategic challenges.
Okay, so you're executing through small steps, habits, and systems. But it's not set and forget it, right?
Right.
You need to measure and refine as you go.
Absolutely not. Execution is never a one-and-done activity. To truly master it, you need to build in tight feedback loops. You need to rigorously measure your results, learn from what's happening, and continuously adjust your approach based on real-world data.
How do you do that effectively?
First, track key metrics relentlessly. What truly matters gets measured. Identify the few critical indicators, key performance indicators or KPIs, that are directly tied to the success of your strategy. Is it sales revenue? Number of focused work hours achieved? Customer satisfaction scores? Your own sense of well-being? Choose the right metrics, track them consistently, and review them regularly to stay informed about your actual progress or lack thereof.
Okay, track what matters.
Second, reflect and adapt systematically. Schedule dedicated time, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, for honest reflection. Ask yourself and your team, what worked well this period? What didn't go as planned? Why? What unexpected obstacles arose? What can we learn from this? Based on these insights, how should we intelligently tweak our strategy or refine our execution systems moving forward? This reflective practice is where learning happens and improvements are made.
And finally,
celebrate wins and learn from losses. Acknowledging progress and celebrating milestones, even small ones, is crucial for maintaining motivation and morale. Recognize achievements. At the same time, view setbacks and failures not as reasons to quit, but as invaluable learning opportunities. Analyze what went wrong without blame, extract the lessons, and apply them immediately. Every lesson learned, every adjustment made based on feedback, sharpens your strategic edge and makes your execution stronger over time.
when you talk about really masterful execution, especially on ambitious goals, Elon Musk often comes up as a prime example.
Yeah.
How does his approach illustrate these principles?
Elon Musk is indeed a quintessential, if extreme, example of relentless execution paired with incredibly audacious strategic vision. He's famous for taking massive, seemingly impossible goals like colonizing Mars or transitioning the world to sustainable energy and breaking them down into incredibly tiny, actionable tasks and aggressive timelines.
Like scheduling his day in 5-minute blocks.
Exactly. That level of granularity reflects a relentless focus on execution. He constantly reviews progress against ambitious objectives, pushes his teams incredibly hard, and isn't afraid to pivot or kill projects that aren't working. His unwavering focus on execution, his ability to consistently bridge that enormous gap between grand, long-term strategy and intense daily doing is arguably a primary driver of the groundbreaking innovations and staggering results his companies have achieved. Strategy without execution is ultimately like possessing a highly detailed, accurate map and never actually embarking on the journey. Execution is what transforms your mental game plan into tangible, real-world impact. You do it by systematically breaking down your goals, building consistent habits and reliable systems to drive daily action, and diligently measuring your progress so you can learn and adapt along the way. Always remember this. A plan, no matter how brilliant, only becomes truly powerful when it is consistently, relentlessly acted upon. Your greatest strength isn't just your ability to think strategically or plan meticulously, it's your profound ability to do. Outro.
Wow. Okay, what an incredible journey we've just been on.
Yes.
Seriously. We went all the way from cultivating that fundamental strategic mindset, the pause, the analysis, through gaining absolute clarity on your end game, learning to wield information like ammunition, truly seeing the whole board and anticipating what's next, mastering the critical arts of timing and leverage, embracing agility, understanding ethical influence, and finally, landing on the absolute necessity of disciplined execution. This entire deep dive has really illuminated the profound art and science of strategic thinking.
And that's exactly what it is, both an art and a science. It's not some theoretical concept you just switch on for big decisions and then switch off. For it to be truly transformative, strategic thinking needs to become a fundamental way of living, a continuous mode of operating in the world. My deepest encouragement to everyone listening is to genuinely start embedding strategic thinking into everything you do, big and small.
Make it a lifestyle.
Exactly. Make it your default lifestyle. Let every significant decision, every important conversation, every deliberate action become an intentional opportunity to outthink, outmaneuver, and ultimately outlast the challenges you face. Get in the habit of consistently asking yourself those powerful daily questions we've discussed. How does this specific choice serve my defined long-term goals? What is the bigger picture here, beyond the immediate urgency or emotion? What invaluable lesson can I learn? How can I improve from this very moment, win or lose? Make asking these questions a deep-seated, automatic habit. Over time, your mind will naturally, instinctively gravitate towards strategic thought rather than just defaulting to knee-jerk reaction.
And let's be realistic. Life will still throw obstacles your way, right? Things will still go wrong. It will still surprise you, and there will absolutely be moments that shake your confidence. Strategy isn't a magic shield against all difficulty.
That is absolutely inevitable. Life guarantees friction and challenge. But here's the difference. When you consciously choose to live your life as a master tactician, as a strategist, you become fundamentally unshakable in a way you weren't before. You won't automatically fall into panic. You won't just freeze in place overwhelmed. Instead, your trained response will be different. You will calmly assess the new situation, you will intelligently adapt your approach based on your principles, and you will decisively move forward, always guided by that unwavering sense of purpose you've cultivated.
So challenges become training.
Challenges genuinely transform into your training ground. Failures cease to be devastating dead ends. They become invaluable feedback, data points for improvement. With your newly honed strategic edge, you develop the remarkable ability to turn uncertainty itself, the very thing most people fear, into your distinct advantage. You learn to navigate the fog.
That's such a transformative idea. It leads perfectly to that final provocative thought you shared. The greatest victory isn't just outsmarting competitors or challenges. It's outsmarting your own limitations, your own reactive tendencies, your own fears.
That really is the core idea, isn't it? The ultimate application of strategy is mastering yourself. You absolutely have the power within you to do this. You now have the fundamental tools, the frameworks, the mindset. The insights are yours. So the only question left is, what will you do with them? Go live strategically, live with intention, live with purpose, and start winning your days every single day.